seems that with that propulsive mechanism and that power and that opportunity, one still needs what you might call the aggregation of religious texts to ground your wants. One, as an individual, you can drive yourself crazy with insatiable wants.
Yeah.
Don't those religious texts help give you guidance and say, as you said, these are the 7 things that if you can focus on that, you can have a joyful and meaningful life?
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, now that we are in a condition of abundance as a society, not always as individuals,
place, yeah.
You know, that old wisdom has become relevant again. I mean, you know, we no longer need to treat it as Marx did, as simply a barrier on progress, because we've reached the stage of abundance that he foresaw. So now is the time to ask ourselves, you know, what is wealth for? And there we get much more guidance from the ancient Greeks than we do from Marx himself or any of the modern economists.
It's moral inquiry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. What kind of commentary, as you've brought this book out and we're talking, what kind of commentary have you received?
We've had a very, very positive reaction from the Archbishop of Canterbury, who was one of the people who did give it a very, very favourable review and called it a wake-up call. But I suppose the criticisms one might anticipate are it denies the dynamic impulse, that the insatiable impulse is, you know, the glory of Western civilization in some way. The reaching from the stars, and once you say, well, enough is enough. Well, where do you go from there? What do you do for the next 1,000 years? I mean, that kind of reaction.
You develop a sense of humor, I think.
Well, you develop a sense of humor. And what we say is, but there are masses of things we can do which are reaching for the stars, but which don't involve making money. I mean, science and innovation is now thought of purely in terms of economic incentives, commercial applications.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
I mean, we forget that, you know, the economy was static pretty much until the late 17th, early 18th century, but civilizations were not static during that period. Another criticism which we got from the author of the London Review of Books review, and which we expect to hear more of, is that we're prescriptive or paternalistic. We advance a particular vision of the good life.
But of course, liberals, I mean liberals in the European sense, they'd be conservatives perhaps in the American sense, they keep talking about the state as an obstacle to the realization of human preferences and human desires. But their rhetoric has no connection with reality whatsoever. For example, I mean, a lot of American progress in the 20th century was built on state initiative and as a result of vast military expenditures to start with. The interstate highway system all came out of military, the difficulty of moving originally, the problems people had in the First World War of moving troops from the West Coast to the East Coast, and Eisenhower remembered that. And so the state is not neutral. The state shapes the society to a very large extent, but it's not acknowledged. And when one actually proposes something, people say, you're being paternalist, you're being coercive. We've got to decide ourselves. So what we're saying is we're not coercive, but we're trying to use the state to put pressure in directions we think are for the public good and for the private good as well. And we're just doing things that the state, advocating things that the state already does, but making it a bit explicit, more explicit. The state already bans certain goods, which it regards as sin goods. The state already actually has limits on advertising certain products. So there is a framework of state intervention, but people of a conservative disposition tend to either deny that it exists at all, or if it does exist, want to get rid of it.